Hello, welcome back, everybody. This is How You See It with Robert Schubeck. I'm your host. And we have a special guest here today with us. He's the director of the Ohio Department of Developmental Disabilities. Welcome, Director Martin.
Thank you. It's nice to be on with you, Robert. Really have enjoyed getting to know you on the Tech Council, so appreciate the opportunity to chat with you a little bit today.
Right. Well, the governor has come out with the technology first initiative. And I wanted you to tell our viewers a little bit about what the Ohio Technology First initiative is all about.
Okay. Well, a lot of your viewers are probably familiar with Employment First.
Mm-hmm.
And we did that maybe, 6 or 7 years ago now.
Yeah.
And the idea was that when a service and support administrator was sitting down with an individual, the family, etc.,
Mm-hmm.
we wanted to make sure they were bringing up the possibility of employment with the individual, that we were always discussing that with the person so that if that is something they wanted to do, we as a system could provide them with that opportunity. And so wanted to kind of get that ingrained in the culture. Let's think about that with folks.
Mm-hmm.
So then when we looked at technology, it's kind of the same sort of thing, that when that program planning team is sitting down to work on the individual's plan, we want them to think about how could technology make their life better? How could we use technology in some way that maybe is going to help the individual be more independent,
Right.
have more accessibility to their community, etc. And we wanted to make sure that we weren't missing anyone, that everybody had that opportunity. And so that's kind of the idea behind the Technology First. We want to make sure that everybody in the state, we're taking that opportunity to discuss with them and think with them about how technology might help support them and make their lives better. And it's kind of like the American with Disabilities Act, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we did curb cuts to help folks have access to their community and made sure that buildings were accessible so that folks could get in and out of buildings, etc. So, that was kind of the ADA is about accessibility to buildings, etc. So this is kind of about the same thing, but it's accessibility to technology. How do we, and so that's what our council's working on, as you know. What are the barriers? What are the curb cuts? What are the things we need to do to make technology accessible to everybody the same way we have through the American with Disabilities Act tried to make our communities accessible to everybody.
And that is a perfect segue into the next question. Can you tell us what the Technology Council is all about?
So the first thing, we have 6 meetings of the Technology Council, and we're 4th, right? Today was our 4th, yes. So
yes.
we've had 4 meetings of it. And so the first thing, so what we're doing is we're carrying out that executive order, which was to say we, in addition to the Technology First, it said a council was appointed by the governor, and the idea was looking at how do we make technology more accessible to everybody in Ohio. So that's kind of the task of the council. So we kind of started out by bringing in and did presentations so that everybody on the council had a sense of what kind of technology was being used in Ohio. And so we brought in the 6 major tech vendors so that we all, because the people on the council are not tech experts, but rather they are people with influence on our system. Mm-hmm. So head of the Superintendent's Association, head of the Providers Association, advocates, family members, county board members. So the idea was that we would get a shared understanding of what's out there. And then the next meetings we kind of looked at barriers. So what do we think's getting in the way What is stopping us from being able to move things ahead further? Today, then, we had some people in talking about how they're overcoming some of those barriers and using technology, and how in certain counties, and your county was held out, Hamilton, as a excellent example of a county that's taken this on, and you're now leading the state and folks using it. But yet we have other areas of the state where nobody's using it. So that's kind of the work of the council. How do we replicate the good work that's going on in Hamilton County? How do we replicate that in the rest of the state?
Right.
Now, you know, I talk too much, Robert, so
Well,
this is your show, so, you know, you need to
we
shut
got
me off.
10 minutes.
Oh, we do? Okay.
Yeah. Another question I'd like to ask you is, where do you see accessible technology going in the future for people with disabilities?
Well, in my opinion, Robert, we are just scratching the surface. And so there are so many more possibilities that we haven't even scratched the surface. So if you think about, we have 40,000 people in Ohio with Medicaid waivers, 40,000 people. We have 340 using remote supports. And then, you know, we don't really know, as we discussed today a little bit, we're not sure how many are using kind of other forms of accessible technology, but we don't think it's a very large number. And so we have so much untapped potential that we could be making folks' lives better. We've had a lot of neat stories of individuals using technology and how it's allowing them to be more independent. They don't have to rely on staff as much. And their lives are better. I mean, we've had a lot of neat, remember Julie, I think from your county last time, was explaining just how her life has improved through that. So where I see it going is, you know, how do we get to the other hundreds and thousands of people in our system that could benefit from this and have better lives? How do we take that to them? And that's our challenge, I think, as a field. It's our challenge as a council, is how do we do a plan so that instead of it being the exception and the rare thing, that 5 years from now it's going to be flipped and there's hardly, you know, no one that doesn't know about technology and isn't using it in some way or another way. So that's how I, you know, look at it, and that's what I hope for the future, is what is rare today becomes commonplace tomorrow.
Okay, good. I like that answer. And, you know, the other side of that coin is, well, what do you think would occur, or how bad would it be if technology is not continued to be accessed by people with disabilities?
So I think it really becomes a rights violation because everybody else is using it, right? And so it's kind of like the American with Disabilities Act, where again we made buildings accessible to people, not just people who could walk or people who were sighted, you know, or you know, and so part of that was making all of that accessible to everyone. And then we found out once we did it that a whole bunch of other people benefited from it, you know. So not just, you know, you in your wheelchair, but people like me who are getting old. We need curb cuts too, right? And so it just makes our communities more accessible. So it's the same thing. People with disability have the right to the technology, and we have to figure out how to make that, you know, how to give them access to that, just like we did, you know, buildings and things like that. Does that make? I don't know if that makes sense, but that's how I kind of look at it.
Yeah. And the last and final question for you: tell me and your viewers how you have benefited from technology. yourself?
How I personally, so that's that's a question I wish you would not have asked me, Robert, because I am the least tech savvy person probably there. I mean, I use my cell phone, and beyond that, not a whole lot. I still use a map, a paper
Wow.
map. You know, I don't even use the Google Map thing. So for me, it hasn't been, something. Well, I use the internet at home, I guess.
Yeah.
But what has motivated me and driven me is hearing folks' stories who are using it. Your stories. I mean, you shared a lot of really neat stories about your life and ways it's changed and how it's helped you. We had Julie here explaining in her life, and we had Howard, who's one of the parents on there, who uses it, and they use it for their son. And it has been those exciting stories that you hear, and hearing those stories of increasing the independence. I mean, that's what makes me excited, and thinking about, wow, other people need to have those same benefits in their life that the people whose stories we've heard have.
Right, right. Well, I appreciate you spending the time to talk with me. I appreciate you appointing me to the council. That was a real honor for me.
Well, you've been a valuable asset to us, because, there's nothing more valuable than hearing from people who actually are experiencing it, right? I mean, and that allows us to see the benefits and really motivates us to move this forward. And so we appreciate you taking the time to participate in the council, and appreciate your wisdom from the perspective of somebody who uses this technology on a regular basis.
And, I think accessible technology will go a long way in this state to help people with disabilities become more employed, access their communities on a regular basis. And just like you said, your overall goal is for people with disabilities to become more independent.
Absolutely.
And spend time doing what it is they like to do, just like everybody else.
Right.
And I'd like to thank everybody for watching. Again, Director John Martin, thank you for being on the show.
Thank you for having me. Enjoyed it.